Hi everyone, it is April from Getting Hooga With It. Today I'm here to share with you the best books that I have read in 2020 so far. So let's get into it. I have probably had the best reading year ever this year, which I'm very grateful for because I think we can all agree that 2020 has been really crappy on so many levels. It's been so emotional and difficult and draining and slightly terrifying and yeah, I needed a good reading year. I really did. So I'm here to share with you those books. I think I've got like 6 books here that are like the best of the best to me so far. And there's still like half a year to go, so I can just imagine, I can only imagine how much better it's going to get. Okay, so let's dive in. The first book I want to talk to you about is Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams. Now, I did the mid-year freakout tag, and I said that another book, which I am going to mention here, was my favorite book of the year. And I'm slightly regretting that now, and I'm thinking that this might have been the best book that I've read this year so far, just for the staying power. Queenie is about a Black woman living in London. She's a journalist, and she is on a break. Really, it's a breakup with her boyfriend, and she was dating this guy, and they lived together, and he moved out, and he just said, I need a break. And so she's kind of been holding out hope that he's going to come around and they're going to get back together. And in the meantime, I mean, they are on a break, so she is having sexual relationships with a lot of different men. All of these men are horrible people, horrible to her. They can be racist. One of them is actually quite violent in bed and slightly terrifying in my mind. And she puts up with so much. And it really is about her lack of self-esteem and her building self-esteem over the course of this book. So you follow her and you follow her friends, who she calls the corgis, because her name is Queenie. So Queenie's got to have her corgis. And I really enjoyed the story arcs with those friends as well. They're there for her, but they also call her out on the stuff that she's doing. Some friends are better than others, and I just thought this was wonderful, and Queenie really did feel like such a real person to me. Very complex person. There's also a storyline in here about her relationship with her mother, which is strained. That was probably my favorite story arc of them all in this book. And it's quite subtle one, but I really loved it, and it actually made me tear up several times. But I just loved Queenie as a person. I really do feel like she's out there walking around in the world. I just adored her so much, and I wanted to shake her sometimes and like, stop doing this. But like, I don't know if you have in your past, in your dating history, allowed men to treat you, you know, in an improper way. I have. And so this was actually quite triggering for me and brought me back to those moments where you're waiting by the phone, waiting for the guy to call you. And he wasn't worth waiting by the phone for. He never was. So, yeah, it was triggering, and it brought up a lot of memories. But I really loved it. I just loved Queenie so much. She's actually in the process of trying to write a new book, and I'm very eager. I am really eager for whatever she writes. Next is a series. So this is kind of a stand-in for a series, and this will be no surprise to many of you. It's Blue Monday by Nikki French. So Nikki French is actually a husband and wife duo. I don't know how you'd be able to do this. as a couple to write together, I think Barry and I would probably kill each other. But they do it, and they do it very, very well. So in this series, we're following a psychotherapist named Frida Klein. And she, over the course of the series, ends up involved with these mysteries. Usually it starts with her trying to help a person and sit down with a person and get to know their psyche. And she comes from the standpoint of a therapist. And then she always gets involved in one mystery or another. She often works with the police trying to help to solve murders and rapes and whatnot. In Blue Monday, we follow Frida, and she is sitting down with one of her patients in a therapy session, and he's saying to her, you know, my wife and I should say, are really trying for a baby, and we're just struggling. And I just keep dreaming about this little red-haired boy, and I just want this red-haired boy. And then, like 2 days later, a red-haired boy goes missing. And so she thinks, oh my goodness, this guy could have done it. I don't know if he did it or not. So she goes to the police, and it goes from there. There is a mystery and a storyline that follows throughout the entire series. I'm only on Dark Saturday right now. There's 8 books in the series. But this is the first, and I just really loved it. Frida herself is a very layered character that you slowly get to unpeel her past and why she is the way she is very slowly through the books. And it feels like such a privilege to get to know her because she cares, and she's caring for so many people. And you in turn care for her, and I really, really love it. It's very cozy as well. This is my version of a cozy mystery. Her little home is very, very cozy, and she does a lot of hygge kind of things in her home, and the way she eats, and I just love everything, and I would like to live slightly like Frida, except with more people around me that I let into my heart and into my life. So yeah, that's Blue Monday. So good. And that has inspired me to like really try and get into series. I want to maybe get into one series every year. That's kind of my thought that I might do. So this year it is the Frida Klein series. Moving on. The next book I need to talk to you about is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I don't have that here because I've lent it to one of my dear friends, Sandra, and this is my first Colson Whitehead, and it will not be my last because he is such an important writer, writing about such important things. So The Nickel Boys is about an academy called the Nickel Academy, and the Nickel Academy is for boys, and white boys and black boys are sent to the Nickel Academy, and they are separated. Now, the boys are sent to the Nickel Academy if they have done something wrong in their lives. Usually they haven't really done much of anything to call for something as extreme as the Nickel Academy. Now, they call it an academy, but it really is more of a prison, like a juvenile detention center than anything else. And they just call it an academy because they want to like reform these boys and make them better. We follow a little, well, he's not little, he's like, I think he's in his teens, a black boy named Elwood. And you follow him before he goes to the Nickel Academy, and you learn about who he is as a kid. And I'm telling you, he lives in my heart forever. I loved Elwood so much. I think that if I was raising a boy and he was anything like Elwood, I would be so proud. I'd be like, you did well. Like, he's just so wonderful. Now, an act of racism by the police sends him to the Nickel Academy. He has done nothing wrong. He had dreams and aspirations, and I think that is so important, that part of the book where you're learning about him as a person, as an individual, before the Nickel Academy is important. So you follow him going to the Nickel Academy, and there is major abuse at the Nickel Academy. You know, boys are actually being murdered. Some boys get sick and are not treated well and die at the Nickel Academy. And what they send home to the parents is essentially, sorry, you know, they ran away. And they didn't run away, they died or were murdered. And what is so sad about this book is that it's based on a real school that was in Florida, and I can't for the life of me at this moment remember what it was called. And it existed, and these abuses of boys happened at the school. I think this takes place in the 1960s, the late 1960s. It was absolutely wonderful and such an important book, and now I want to read everything that Colson White has ever written, and I just feel so excited. I've got the Underground Railroad on my shelves, and that'll probably be the next Colson Whitehead that I read. Next up, I need to talk to you and gush about My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is another hard book. There's a lot of hard books on my favorite books of the year list. And I've read thrillers and stuff as well, but the books that stay with me are usually my favorite books, and this one will stay with me. It was so hard to read. This is about a young girl named Vanessa. I think she's 14 or 15 in this book, and she goes away to like a private school where they stay at the school. It's a boarding school, and she doesn't have a lot of friends. She's had a falling out with a friend in the last year, and so she's alone a lot. And her high school English teacher named Jacob Strain sees that and is attracted to her and begins the process of grooming her and sexually abuses her. And we follow her when she's a young child, really, being abused and not recognizing it as abuse and thinking she's having this affair with her English teacher. And we follow her many years later when she's an adult, and she still thinks of it as, you know, I had an affair with my English teacher. There are women coming out and saying, hey, Jacob Strain, when I was a teen, he abused me. And they're coming out with their stories. And she, you know, it takes her a very long time. It takes her the course of this whole book to fully recognize that what she experienced as a teen was abuse, that this man groomed her, and that she was a victim of his sexual abuse. It is very hard to read in places. I had to put this book down several times because I was so angry. Sexual abuse is something that has affected my life. I was not sexually abused, but someone very dear to me was sexually abused by someone that should have been protecting them, and they didn't. And so this book is so close to my heart for that reason. And you know, I think this is an important book for everyone to read, because I think there's a lot of people in our society who don't recognize what happens in sexual abuse. Prolonged sexual abuse and grooming. And I don't think they understand it, and this book would help them to understand it. And I think if more people read this book with an open mind, less victim blaming would happen. And so it's on my list of favorite books of the year, and you know it will be at the end of the year for sure as well. Next is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. Now this in my mid-year freakout tag, I said this was my favorite book of the year. And it's so good. This book is about a group of people who are all linked because of this thing called a miracle submarine. These two people this couple owns this miracle submarine, and it is supposed to heal things like infertility and autism. So you have this group of people. We follow a man who's suffering from infertility. We follow several mothers who have children that have autism and several other things that I can't remember offhand. Now we realize early on that one day something happens at the Miracle Submarine and it kind of blows up. Several people are killed, several people are injured. And we're following a trial where a mother, one of the mothers of one of the boys who died, who had autism, she is accused of essentially having blown up the Miracle Submarine, lighting a fire, intending to kill her son. So we're following this trial. We see the people go up and become witnesses, and it is so powerful because you're reading from all of these different perspectives, and what they say on the stand is often quite different than what they have experienced throughout their lives. This is about being victimized and victimizing other people. They're all victims in their own ways, and they're all not great people either. They're very real. I love stories where there's a lot of gray, where there's no like hero and villain, and like there isn't like straightforward good, straightforward bad. This is so much about the gray, and I loved this so much. I'd be happy to reread that, and I can't wait for what Angie Kim comes out with next, because she was a trial lawyer, or is a trial lawyer. I don't know, but I'm excited, guys. I really hope she sticks with the whole trial thing, because I think that she can do that so incredibly well. And then the last book on my list of favorite books of 2020 so far is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I can't believe that it took me so long to read The Color Purple, and how many times I've like wanted to watch the movie but stopped myself because I wanted to read the book first. I'm really glad that I did stop myself, because this was so emotional. This follows two sisters. We follow Celie and Nettie, and they are Black girls living in the South. They live in Georgia in the early 20th century. And their father is incredibly abusive. Celie is repeatedly raped by her father. She has children by him. And he's just horrendous. He essentially gets rid of her by marrying her off and speaking horribly about her, and then marrying her off to another abusive man. So we in this book are following Celie and her letters to God. And it's kind of a Dear Diary kind of thing, and telling the story of her life to God and trying to understand why she's being treated badly. It is about her falling in love with a woman, which is such a beautiful story arc that I really, really loved. It's her missing her sister, because her sister is also able, luckily, to escape their father, but she has a different story arc, and it's her missing her sister. And then I guess more than halfway through the book, or around halfway through the book, we switch to Nettie, and we find out what Nettie has been up to all of these years. And Nettie is writing to Celie in a series of letters, and it's just so wonderful. It is about sisterhood. It is about the love between women. It is about female friendship, and it's just such an important book, and I cried like a baby. I loved it so much. So those are the very, very best books that I've read so far in 2020. I would love to know in the comments below what your favorite books of the year have been so far. We still have so many more months to go. It's so wonderful. So many good books to get to. In the description box below, you can go and check me out on Amazon. I've got my Amazon wishlist there. I've got my Goodreads, my Instagram. You can hang out with me over on Patreon as well. I'd love that. I hope that you guys are doing really well, and I will talk with you soon. Bye!